Welcome to Something to Talk About, which is a program we do several times a week. Today, we're going to be talking about the future of the Senior Community Center. And we have some members of the Building Task Force, which is a small group that's working to try to make some headway on the challenges that are before us and the opportunities. And I also would like to thank the folks at Fieldstone Communities of Bainbridge Island, which are sponsors of this program. They offer day stay and respite programs. They have memory care, independent living, and assisted living up on Rolling Bay. To learn more, call 360-594-1010. Also, I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the ancestral homeland of the Suquamish people, the people of the clear salt water, who have lived on these waters of the Salish Sea since time immemorial. We are grateful for their hospitality and their stewardship. Bill Luria just turned on his microphone, and Bill is the chair of the Building Project Task Force. We've spent a lot of time on this name, so I want to make sure I got it right. Thank you, Bill, for joining us, and thank you for other members of the task force who are here.
Right, and thank you all for joining us today. Yeah,
I wonder if you might just start us off by talking about why we might need to have a bigger, newer senior community center.
Well, for those of you who participate in the various programs and services we have, you see and you understand that we're really stretched for providing the facilities needed to meet those program needs. We've grown in the last 5 or 6 years from a membership of 700 to close to 1,800. Yet we're in the same facility that's many, many years old. So if we want to continue serving the community, the senior community, and to provide a whole range of programs and services, we need a new facility.
Just add that actually we're 100 above that. We're at about 1,900 now.
1,900.
So we're closing in on 2,000 members. And of course, about 25% of the island is 65 years of age or older. And so that means that the potential population of seniors, let alone people who are going to be seniors, and if you count that, that's going to be a larger number yet, could benefit from the advantage of greater services and information and programs that we can offer.
I just want to mention, I just want to mention that even right now, we're stretched thin. We have to rent spaces outside of our facility just to provide basic programs and services right now.
Okay.
I'm just going to mute you, Don. If you have a comment, you can just unmute yourself when you want to, just so that we don't record your responses every time. Also on the committee who are here today, Del Miller and Eleanor Weinell and Colleen Kielbart. And I'm just going to first invite them to say anything any of you about what you might want to say about this project and why you are helping to work on it.
Well, I'm interested. I've been in a remodel here many years ago, so yep. I have a great curiosity of what the new program is, or the new description of what the new facilities we might need are, and just to kind of keep in touch.
Right. Well,
because I'm a retired architect, and so I used to design retirement communities. So, I have an interest in my own.
Don, and I know that we appreciate the work that you have done in the past to help out with this. We have been working with Charlie Winslow to try to put together some conceptual drawings to get us started on this process. I'm happy to talk a little bit about the program, but Eleanor, might you as well with look at the design, look at some of the things we've talked about as part of the future programs that we might be able to offer with a better facility?
I'll try. I think that for those who saw the diagrams that were out at the annual meeting last February, really outlined the program for the building. And it's based on the activities we offer now, so that it includes a large meeting space that can also be subdivided into smaller units. It includes meeting spaces, I would say smaller and intermediate size meeting spaces, because we have groups that have outgrown even the meeting spaces that we have now, just in terms of the number of people participating. And then we included as well a commercial kitchen and the possibility of a dining space or cafe. Not seeing that as competition for anything in town, but to accommodate those people who are currently using the center for the lunch meals and snack times and get-togethers. And then their administrative spaces, Reed and Mary and all deserve adequate offices, we think. Better than adequate, luxurious even. And then we have another space, which is interesting because it seems to be developing over time into a space to accommodate, shall we say, wellness activities. We have, for instance, currently foot care, but there are also opportunities for visiting nurses and or mobile diagnostic clinics that we could accommodate as well.
Okay.
And what have I left out? I think that's it. Well, the note the library, which occurred during the COVID crisis, has become extremely popular. And so that becomes part of our permanent plan as well.
Yeah, one of the things where you're sitting right now, Don, is a lending library where we have books and puzzles that people can come and drop off or pick up.
Right.
And what used to be in the current center designed as I think as a lounge, what we call it the fireside room, which is on the other end of the building, is now pretty much programmatic. We've got card games in there every day, and we've got chess games, and we've got sing-alongs, and we've got meeting activities going on in what really should be more of a open drop-in space for folks who might want to have a cup of coffee and just meet, not have to have a program. If they're all singing Alice's Restaurant, it kind of takes away from the opportunity to have an impromptu discussion. Bill?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, one of the other features is a much better parking arrangement. We're thinking about underground, well, I don't know if it's underground parking, but ability to provide parking off of the street. It just opens up a whole different possibilities.
Yeah, I think one of the problems here, we just had a rowing center, a boathouse built across the street without any additional parking. And we have challenges with, I think, obligations for the city dock. So on Saturdays, much of Bajune Drive behind us is closed off. And so in addition to coming up with alternative forms of transportation, supporting such things as a circulator bus, maybe downtown, we also support the idea of some limited, here we have 20 spaces, additional parking to keep the pressure off the situation here. So what is currently the lower level now, the only level, the one-story building, would be this thrift store, large meeting room, and parking. And then upstairs would be what we were looking at a minute ago, which Eleanor was describing some of the activities that might occur, the community enclave, which could be used for foot care or for blood pressure checks, or possibly we could set it up in such a way there'd be room for one-on-one meetings with Medicare advisors, or even social workers, that sort of thing, which we get a lot of requests for help here at the center that we cannot adequately respond to, because we have basically 3 meeting spaces, and only one of them, the largest, can hold about 80. And that means that classes that are larger than that, or exercise classes that are even at the size of 30, won't fit in that multi-purpose uni hall room anymore. So we've been talking with the city about this. The city owns the property, they own the building, and we are enjoying a 40-year long-term lease, which was the result of the work that was done to improve the West Wing in the early 2000s. And we are talking with them about the idea of how we might go about working with donors and government agencies and foundations to try to raise money to build a building that would certainly cost several $1,000,000 to construct.
Yeah. Yeah.
The city seems to be open to this. One of the things that we had talked about early on was the need for senior housing, and Blair King, who's the city manager, has expressed a lot of support for the idea of city housing on the 5.5 acres, which comprises the upper level of Waterfront Park. But in the interest of sort of moving ahead, we've talked with him most recently about the idea of proceeding first with the senior center, perhaps leaving the door open as we work forward to the integration of senior housing, but not trying to swallow the whole pig or boil the whole ocean.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good idea to postpone the housing issue, because that's a whole set of separate complications and potential delay that may not be good.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Were you going to say something, Lena?
No.
Oh, I heard you say whispering something. Okay. I don't know if they're. she's apparently got laryngitis. So I don't know, Del. I know that you were involved in the discussion many years ago with the current amendment that we're operating under, and I think you think that there's the possibility there that that a lot of this exploration is sort of hinted at in there. This is not a new idea.
Yeah, well, the lease in 2011 does anticipate there being made it's called additional improvements. And so it was incorporated into the 40-year lease program.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, so I think that before the latest agreement, there was an effort to try to build a larger 2-story senior center, community center on this property. But the Great Recession happened around that time, 2007 or so. And so pretty much everything was put on ice. And so the idea that the need for expanded services as a civic building, as well as I think a senior center, has been around for a while. The center itself has gone through a lot of changes until about 2017. The programs were run by the Parks Department, and they elected to back out of that and focus on other areas. And as the agreement stated, if the parks was not going to provide programming, then it would fall to the nonprofit. And that 501c3 is the organization that hires me and Mary and the other folks here, and they elected to give it a shot. And we have, as Bill said at the top, we have grown dramatically as we've started to program our own activities. And I anticipate that that enthusiasm will continue and the need will continue. The real challenge for us, I think, is that although we have 1,900 members, we have very few people who have had occasion, given the fact that we operate on a shoestring, to donate large amounts of money. And where our largest donors right now have been giving as much as $5,000 to $10,000 a year to do this construction. In addition to our operating expenses, we're going to need to have people who are going to need to give much more money than that to make it possible. So that opens up the door to what we're doing right now, which is a feasibility study. I wonder if any of you on the task force might be willing to describe a little bit about what that feasibility study is. Bill.
Well, just very briefly, the intent is to find out if we have the capacity to raise enough funds to build a multi-million-dollar facility. That study will tell us yes, or what limits we have in terms of raising the necessary funds. So that, while the whole idea of an expanded new senior center is very exciting, the challenge to raise multiple millions of dollars is challenging. And there's also another issue, and maybe it's a question for Reed that we've been thinking about. If we go ahead with the project, probably on the existing site, what happens to all our programs and services for the year that the new senior center is being built?
Good question.
So I noticed in the 2007 plan, there were that was addressed then, because the idea then was to raise the current building and build a 2-story structure where we are currently meeting. So there are there'd be some programs that would have to be on hiatus. There'd be some programs that, like we learned during COVID, might actually migrate to the internet, meeting as we are right now online. We currently actually have a few meetings, the French and the German and the Spanish groups and a book club, and a poetry group, all are continuing to use the internet as their way of meeting. And we try now, whenever we can, to offer an in-person option, like Don is taking advantage of right now in the conference room. But there are, other organizations. We haven't reached out to them yet. We're currently renting during the period of the middle of the day when they are not using it, the boathouse across the street for our larger classes like Tai Chi practice and line dancing and Pilates that are too big to fit into Hunie Hall. We could obviously look at expanding hours there. There are other buildings off-site, but we would have to reach out to those other organizations. The other thing that our consulting architect right now, Charlie Winslow, is looking at is alternative sites on this 5.5-acre plot. If you were to build next to or around the corner from the current site building, we could conceivably continue to have activities here while we were working on the construction of what was coming out. That help?
That could be viable because, first of all, you're at least partly functional while you're keeping the existing building, and then when a new addition is completed, you can remodel the part of the building that's already existing and expand it at probably a more efficient timeline. So there's some alternate. Once you have that idea of it could make things easier to do.
I should talk with Sue Allen, who was the coordinator, I believe, for the TNC remodel, where they managed to keep their doors open through the whole darn thing.
Yeah.
Colleen Kielbart, you have a comment?
So I do. I just think it's important for all of the folks to understand that we have hired an outside company to do our feasibility study. It's pretty complicated, and they know what they're doing more than we do in that respect, and they'll get back to us with lots of answers that our team has and whatnot. So we're undergoing that right now. And the only other comment I want to make, Reed, is that you asked if if any of us had a reason for being on the task force. And I've been part of the senior center for the last several years, active on the board and whatnot. But I also was a member of classes that I couldn't get into. I would sign up for go in to sign up for the class, and it'd be all booked up. So I have been on that end of not being able to participate because of our growth. And I just think the senior center is such a wonderful organization, helping so many different people, whether it's a party or a class or health and wellness, whatever it might be. So I'm very, very enthused about continuing our expansion and to service all the people in our community.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. The idea that this process is one that we have a consultant who's worked with a lot of other island organizations helping us out. And the idea there is that over the course of the next 3 to 4 months, we will look at a number of different paradigms. We're going to try to have some conversations with a lot of people about what is important to them, where the senior center might fall on their philanthropy list. We'll also look at the idea of what questions or objections, the thing that Don just mentioned about concern about, or maybe congratulations on moving separately with housing and the center itself, are the kinds of things that we want to think through before we are actually launching the campaign in earnest. And so the idea is by the end of this calendar year, the board will make a decision about whether we feel comfortable that we have the right plan, the right people, the right momentum to start raising money in earnest. And there is a deadline, right, Bill, for some state money early next year.
Right.
Can you tell us about that?
Well, the state has a grant program for projects just like ours. And it's a significant amount of money if we qualify. That will be one of our major thrusts. It requires us to have a long-term lease with the city, which I guess we have, a 40-year lease with the city. So we can check off all the technical issues, but we have to be prepared to apply for this funding within the next few months.
So that's sort of the timeline and what we're hoping to do. I anticipate that part of what will happen in the next few months certainly is to, as we work with Charlie to get a better idea of our next version of the program, is to have some community meetings so that we can talk with people about what we're doing. And you never know what you haven't thought of. That's kind of the nature of not having thought of it. And an idea might come up in a community meeting that we should integrate before we're too far down the line. Are there other questions or comments? Anybody join that came on with a question that we haven't actually addressed?
Well, it seems to me you're approaching this very logically and methodically, and so I'm encouraged to see that. So, and you're in good hands with Charlie Winslow. Charlie is an architect, so
he is an architect, and he's done a lot of work with the city.
Right.
So he has a lot of understanding of the code restrictions. And we currently, the picture I showed at the beginning, which I can show you again, shows that the lot that we are on is a funny thing. This is the 5.5 acres that we're sitting on, but these are the two lots that the senior center, because it was actually created by the purchase and condemnation of a couple of single family homes that happen to be up here on this parcel after the World War 2 barracks were built and removed. I don't know. Anyway, Ed Stafford had this property, and it ended up being parkland for the waterfront. And there's this funny big parcel that surrounds what is currently these 2 single-family dwellings, and it's that part that the senior center sits on. So if we were to move to the west or the east or to the north, we would need to sort of reconfigure that. And Charlie's experience with those, that arcania of the city will be helpful.
Yeah.
So I want to, I know that some of you may have joined with a question, and I want to make sure that we don't sign off before those questions are answered, or members of the task force have a chance to say whatever you think we might have left out.
Well, no, I was just going to say, we like questions. Questions are good.
You ask a question for me?
Yeah, there's a question in the conference room.
Yeah. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Please do.
Oh, here.
Please do.
Go ahead.
Hi. I was just wondering, what are you going to do about parking? There's no parking here now. And if they build a bigger structure, are they going to build underground parking or what?
Can you hear her?
Yeah, we heard her.
Okay.
And so our idea, what is the name of the woman who is speaking?
Yeah, Liz Knobloch.
Hi, Liz. So
Hi.
our idea is where you're sitting right now would be part of a parking garage that would be at ground level, and the bulk of the building would be above you. So I put up a picture of the conceptual plan, which has the thrift store and the meeting room on that level where you are, with parking behind it. So 20 more units at this area. And then it would also open up some units along Bryan Drive, because we would not have the drive up on that side. Instead, the bulk of the programs would be up a level, just above your head there. And that's where the bulk of the senior center would be. And the main entrance would be off Bajune, but you could still get in from Bryan. You'd have to take the stairs or the elevator to get to the main part of the operation. So yes, we think that there should have been parking put in here a while ago, and we feel an obligation to include parking, although it's not the sexiest part of the program. But we think that we need to do that as to make sure that this is available. I also think that, and I know that there are efforts in town to try to reduce pressure on the single occupancy vehicles. And if we had better town circulation, a lot of folks live within long walking distance in apartments and condominiums here in Winslow. And if they had a much easier way to get here without driving their car, they probably would, because parking is impossible. I hear you.
Thank you. Thanks.
I'm just the mic holder.
Well, you're doing a very good job.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But it's exciting to see
Thank
and to
you.
hear. Yeah.
So the purpose of the next 4 months is to try to identify individuals and organizations that would be with the capacity to help us. So if you're watching this right here, right now, or if you're talking to us later, please help spread the word about the value of this. And I would be happy, overjoyed to sit down and talk with anybody who might be willing to think about a major gift to help move this forward. And at this point, we're really talking about capability and pledge rather, and so that's what we're looking for in the next 4 months or so, 3 months.
Any timeline you're aiming for, or is this just incrementally as it works out? So
Well, I mean, as Eleanor has said, she would like to see this done yesterday.
I don't see it.
Now.
Yeah.
Well, we have some built-in deadlines. Reed and Bill will be more astute on that, but to have the financial feasibility study done by the end of the year, so we can be applying for grants.
Okay.
we are moving ahead with planning for the building and developing the program, so that we're not sitting idle while we wait for the next step. I would hope that we would be able to move ahead in the next year, with construction the year following.
Yeah, that would be, you
That
know,
may
and
be
everything.
unrealistic, but I choose to be unrealistic. So miracles
Yeah.
do happen.
All right.
I just want to add one quick thing. One of the priorities, obviously, as we look at this, is to get a better handle, a good handle on the design and construction costs, to know how much money we have to raise. So that's one of the earliest priorities for us, for the design to proceed to a point that we can get a sense of the design and construction costs.
Doing that all along during the process is a good thing to do, so there's no surprises at the tail end of when the clearer handle you have on the costs is really an important goal.
I'm gonna, thank you all for coming. And certainly if you have any questions later, feel free to ask me directly or ask Bill, or Dell and Colleen and Eleanor are also members of the task force, as is David Heather. And we'd be glad to sit down with you.